Welcome back to Epic Rides. This week I wanted to take you guys on an adventure to one of my favorite trail riding spots in Manitoba, Sandylands Provincial Forest in the rural municipality of Piney. Sandylands Provincial Forest covers close to 3,000 square kilometers and consists of wetlands, sandhills, forest, and unpopulated crown land. Sandylands is a playground for off-roading, backcountry camping, hunting, and trapping, and is crisscrossed with hundreds of miles of trails to get lost in. Also, if you're into flowers, in the spring the place is festooned with the prairie crocus, which seemingly grows everywhere, appearing unannounced in the middle of the trail like your racist drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. The only difference is you only try to avoid running over one of them. I'll let you decide which. There are a ton of different ways to access Sandylands. From the Trans-Canada Highway near Haddishville, you can head south to the Sandylands Forest Discovery Centre. Or you can head south down the number 12 and find a bunch of other spots to enter. For me, I like heading down to the RM of Piney and taking Provincial Road 203, and then heading towards the town of Woodridge. And this is our route for today. Oh, and lucky you get to watch me get hurled from the mighty Strom at some point, and I know we'll all enjoy that. On this route, we head south from Lac du Bonnet along the 11 highway, past Seven Sisters Falls and Whitemouth, which by the way has an incredible museum, which is highlighted in the next episode, down to the pretty town of Elma. Elma, originally known as Janao, is primarily known for its close proximity to a huge recreational area. Agassiz Forest, Sandylands, Lakes of the Whiteshell, snowmobile trails, whitewater canoeing, and likely bear wrestling are all within a few minutes' drive. Elma started its life as a sleepy hamlet before the National Transcontinental Railway built through the area in 1905. The people of Elma rejoiced as this provided numerous job opportunities for locals, and the village thrived until the late 1960s, when the train station was unceremoniously demolished and a small rail hut was left behind. People soon grew fond of their new hut, and it was used frequently by visitors headed to isolated cabins in the eastern Whiteshell. Sadly, the hut was removed in 2014, presumably under the cover of darkness by a team of old-timey looking crooks under the watchful gaze of Snidely Whiplash. While the townsfolk of Elma mourned their hut, a new industry had turned their bloodshot and bleary gaze towards Elma. Glorious drugs. Well, not actually drugs, but hemp. Hemp is a botanical class of cannabis that is grown specifically for industrial or medicinal use. It can be used to make a ton of different products, including paper, rope, clothing, paint, fuel, food, and much more. It's the less fun but far more useful sibling to everyone's favorite way to survive another thankless, hopeless, grinding day working a low-paying job: marijuana. In 2019, a bunch of young upstarts called Botanist Organic planned on growing hemp on the former Pineland Forest Nursery, a province-owned greenhouse facility that had been losing money for years. Which is bizarre considering the nursery was purported to be growing seedlings for the province's reforestation efforts since 1953. I mean, I guess it's unsurprising that the government would take something that was supposed to grow trees to replace all of the trees that it and private industry cut down, claim it was losing money, and cut the project. But then again, trees, I guess. Who needs clean air or responsible, sustainable resource use anyways? Anyways, Botanist Organic was riding the Snoop Dogg scented high that was the recent legalization of cannabis in Manitoba, and saw an opportunity to grow hemp. Unfortunately, so did everybody else, including all of the roommates you've ever had over the years who worship at the altar of the Grateful Dead or Cypress Hill, dress head to toe in tie-dye, and forcibly made you listen to them mangle Bob Marley's Redemption song on an out-of-tune acoustic guitar at every bonfire ever. God, I hate you, Tim. As I was saying, Tim and all of his patchouli-scented buddies had the same idea, which immediately caused the market to bottom out, and Botanist Organic was forced to abandon their plans, which cost the town of Elma potentially 200 new jobs. Man, Elma can't seem to catch a break. Well, here's the thing. Elma is a beautiful town nestled right at the corner of Highway 11 and Highway 15, and it's only 7 minutes away from Whitemouth, so there's plenty of amenities nearby, and Elma hosts a very pretty park, which we'll be visiting in a future episode. After passing through Elma, we head west on Provincial Trunk Highway 15. Highway 15 is a 77-kilometer stretch of road that starts at the 11 highway and ends at the perimeter at Winnipeg. The 15 is a picturesque stretch of road with forest, farmland, and more running alongside it. We follow the 15 in all her glory as far as Highway 302. At Highway 302, we head south, and here's where things get really fun for me. Between the 302 and 501, you're on gravel, and it's nice gravel. And still this route gets to be feeling a little adventurous as you cut through farmland and follow the 302 south. On this particular trip, we discovered that the road was closed due to a great honking washout just south of Maturin Road. Easily passable with a 4x4, quad, or adventure bike, but far too much for our chase van. Also, the road was closed, so in the spirit of not pissing off the province, who had just been forced to rescue another jackass who thought they could drive on water like some kind of holy Michael Schumacher, we headed west on Maturin Road and around to the 501 before reconnecting with the 302. You're welcome, Manitoba Highways. The 302 south of the 501 is paved for a ways before returning once more to gravel. On the south side of La Broquerie, the gravel is a little loose for a couple of kilometers, so it's prudent to slow down a little on this section. Unless you're riding a dual sport or an adventure bike with good tires, or we're just curious about what cheese feels like while it's being grated. Before long, you hit the Highway 12 junction. Here you head east on glorious, smooth asphalt through pastureland and brush and past Manitoba's oldest WMA, Watson P. Davidson Wildlife Management Area. Here in Manitoba, we're blessed to have Crown lands, and more specifically, wildlife management areas. Parcels of land designated under the Wildlife Act for better management of the wildlife resource of the province. These areas are intended to not only conserve and enhance wildlife habitat, but to provide opportunities for hunting, trapping, and wildlife viewing. The very first wildlife management area established was a 5,944-hectare parcel of land as part of a land exchange between Watson Pogue Davidson in southeastern Manitoba and the province of Manitoba. Watson P. Davidson initially purchased 92,160 acres of federal and provincial crown land in the hopes of selling it as farmland. In 1920, after receiving very little uptake from buyers, he established Manitoba Dairy Farms Limited and attempted selling farms to potential buyers in Europe. This was met with limited success, and so Davidson decided to get into the dairy business himself. Davidson continued in the dairy industry until his death in 1954. His son, Watson P. Davidson Jr., took over the family business. However, he didn't have his father's passion for that sweet white gold, and so in 1961, Davidson Jr. arranged a land exchange with the province. He donated 2 sections of land to create the first wildlife management area, the province's first and oldest WMA. Richard C. Goulden, who was instrumental in establishing the Beverly-Kaminaria Caribou Management Board involving Inuit, Chippewayan, and Métis users in joint caribou management with the province, and Lorne Colpitts, who would go on to become CEO of the Manitoba Habitat Heritage Corporation, drafted a memo outlining the rationale for creating wildlife management areas in the first place. The underlying philosophy of the wildlife management area is the establishment of lands to sustain a diversity of wildlife in perpetuity for the use and enjoyment of Manitobans. With progressive improvements in standard of living and accompanying increased leisure time, the demand for wildlife-based recreational and educational opportunity has increased as well. At the same time, the land base necessary to supply these needs, wildlife habitat, is declining due to development for other land uses, which in turn are contributing to the increased standard of living. The lands in southwestern Manitoba are among the most highly developed in the province due to their high capability to produce agricultural crops. However, these fertile soils are also capable of sustaining the greatest diversity and abundance of wildlife species in Manitoba. In addition, these lands are located in that part of the province accessible to the greatest number of people. If man's need for encounters with wildlife in their natural habitat is to be met, the land set aside for wildlife management areas will supply an important component of this need. The principles of management of wildlife management areas. 1. To maintain as much native vegetation as practicable. 2. To forego development activities that will jeopardize the purpose for which the area was set aside. 3. To manage habitat employing techniques which will enhance ecosystem stability. And 4. To develop public use facilities in such a manner as to capitalize upon inherent natural qualities rather than create works or structures inconsistent with the area. That right there is some Aldo Leopold and Valerius Geist type thinking. And when your rationale echoes the spirit of arguably 2 of the most important conservationists of modern times, you know you're moving in the right direction. WMAs have been a valuable resource to anyone interested in wildlife, as well as important havens for many species, including white-tailed deer. For many years, funding to maintain WMAs has trickled down to nearly nothing. And while part of that is seemingly because the province doesn't want to invest in anything that doesn't have immediate cash value, another reason is that these areas just aren't being utilized, and so have fallen out of the public's line of sight. You know, it's too bad. However, there are organizations like the Manitoba Wildlife Federation that are working to bring back the WMAs, so it's not completely a bad news story. Once past Watson P. Davidson's WMA, we hit the number 12 and 404 junction where we cut north and then immediately east again on Provincial Road 203. The 203 is a soft 46-kilometer long gravel road that runs east to Woodridge, southeast to Badger, and then south where it ends back at the 12. We're not going quite that far today, as the main purpose of this ride is to get into some trails and have some off-road fun with the bike. As you cruise down the 203, you'll see all kinds of trails leading north and south. Some of these trails are short tracks that lead to old logging areas, and some wind their way through pine forest, wetlands, and sandhills. For the most part, these trails aren't extremely difficult. However, in spring or during a wet year, you can encounter mud deep enough to completely encase an Oompa Loompa. During dry years or in the summer, many of these trails are quite sandy, so taking road tires on them could be a really bad idea. Even with knobbly tires like I've got mounted on my Strom, things can get real exciting real fast if you're not on your game. Which I clearly was not on this day, as evidenced by me managing to get crosswise in some ruts and flinging myself from the bike like a manatee briefly experiencing the gift of flight before crashing headlong into a thicket. Besides crashing like a child taking his first ride without training wheels, I stupidly left my hard luggage on the bike, despite having a chase vehicle with me. So instead of a funny anecdote about how I sprained a rib, I ended up spraining a rib but also ripping my pannier off the bike, causing irreparable damage to the locking mechanism. Oh, and my straps were back in the van at the trailhead, some, 4 kilometers away. So I got to walk them out.
Yeah, so here I am, walking through Sandylands to pick up my cases after a spill. How embarrassing. And I feel like they're way further away than I would like them to be. So annoyed. And the worst of it is, I can't even call anybody right now. Let's see, this is so many stupid mistakes. Oh well.
Sandylands is a truly beautiful place, and I've spent countless hours exploring here, on a bike, a trike, a quad, and on foot. And while I love it here, I'm constantly astounded and frustrated by the amount of garbage that other land users leave behind. From beer cans to diapers, plastic bags to old furniture and used tires, it seems like a ton of entitled assholes consider this area a 3,000 square kilometer landfill. It drives me nuts. Look, I understand that camping can and does occasionally call for an adult beverage or 3, and that garbage from camp accumulates quickly. But what kind of low-rent, no-brained, 1-2 thick-skulled, inbred simpleton looks out over the expanse of pine forest, sees martins playing on a log, a doe and fawn calmly grazing only 20 yards away, and a fox chasing a mouse mere feet from his camping spot and thinks, I'm gonna huck a used diaper at that. If you're the person leaving this crap in the woods, kindly take a deep breath, give your head a shake, strip naked, cover yourself in raw meat, and go look for a hungry bear, you utter bellend. It's not difficult to practice leave no trace camping, and it's easy to leave very little trace even in a 4x4 or on a motorcycle. Simply pack out what you pack in, and if you're there for a day of riding, stick to the trails. All I'm asking is if you're going to go enjoy Sandylands, show some respect for the lands and to the fellow land users. If you're looking for yet another reason to get outside and explore for the day, Sandylands is filled with edible mushrooms and berries. It's a forager's dream. And while I'm not about to give away exact locations and risk the wrath of the fungi mafia, you can definitely find edible mushrooms just off of many trails. And when they're ripe, blueberries are so plentiful that you can easily fill a bucket or 2 and leave enough for the next adventurer, as well as the critters that feast on them. Fair warning, you know who else likes blueberries? Like a lot? Black bears. And it's not uncommon to see a bear or 2 on a day trip. As long as you practice being bear smart, you likely won't have trouble with them though. And so you're aware, to be bear smart, you have to practice a little common sense. Don't crowd a bear. If you see one grazing on blueberries, give it space. When walking, be aware of your surroundings and watch for signs that bears may be nearby. If you're bringing Rover, keep him on a leash. Hike in a group, make noise, and carry bear spray where it's easily accessible. Finally, don't feed the bears, either by accident or on purpose. Pack out your food and don't leave scraps lying around for Yogi to find. I honestly love seeing bears on the landscape. They're an incredible critter, intelligent, powerful, and an awesome force of nature. Bears are an important part of our ecosystem and should be treated with respect and reverence. Also, as a bear hunter, I have a vested interest in seeing healthy bear populations, as this means sustainable hunting and a freezer full of organic, chemical-free, iron-rich, protein-dense, free-range meat to feed my family. I'm not about to get into the ethics of hunting with anyone today, but I will say that hunters know far more about, care more deeply for, and put more effort into the conservation of many species than your average anti-hunter. It's been a fantastic day in Sandylands, and it's time for me to get off my soapbox and back on my slightly mangled motorcycle for the trip back to Lac du Bonnet. After a full day of exploring dirt track and back roads, the route back to town is going to be a nice relaxing cruise. Back on the 12th, we'll head all the way past the communities of Steinbach, Blumenort, and St. Anne before hitting the 15 at Enola and cutting east to the 302 and then north to Beausejour, where we'll cut east again to Seddon's Corner and up the 214 to the 11 and into town for a bite to eat. Okay, this is a pretty full day, and the entire route is close to 350 kilometers, not including the countless miles of trails you'll encounter. If you have a weekend or even a week, I highly recommend staying at a campground or cottage in Woodridge so you can really explore the area. As a final note, local ATV group the Woodridge Sandhogs maintain a series of trails around town, and they are a great resource for some super fun trail riding. Well, that's the Sandylands run, kids. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell button thing so you get notified for the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to explore often and explore local.